Welcome to Datagrams. I'm Jason M. Garrett and I created Datagrams to help you learn how to win in life. And this lesson will do exactly that. We live in a competitive world and we've been taught that to win means to come in first. That's true in a foot race, but other areas of life, maybe not so much. Especially when it comes to buying things. Sometimes being first actually costs you more. And that's today's topic, the hidden cost of being first. Why does this matter? Because if you don't understand the game you're playing, companies who you buy from win and you lose. Manufacturers count on you rushing to be first for whatever it is that they're creating. They count on your excitement, your willingness to be first in the door, and when you don't see the strategy, you end up paying a price you didn't expect. But if you do see the strategy, you're in control. You can decide whether being first is worth it, or if it makes more sense to let someone else pay the cost for you. And if you aren't tracking along with me so far, that's okay. I'll explain it all to you in this datagram and give you what you need to win. So picture this, it's release day at the Apple Store and they're selling the brand new, most up-to-date version of the iPhone. People have been camped outside for days waiting for their chance to be first in line to buy. They've got folding chairs, they got sleeping bags, they got coffee, portable chargers. They're buzzing with excitement to get the brand new iPhone before anybody else gets it. And when they do get it, when they leave the store headed home, they hold up the shiny box for everybody else still standing in line to see. All the excitement, all the buzz. They can't wait to get home, open it up, plug it in, and start using it. And what happens the moment they do? You know, the usual. The glitches, the crashes, the weird little problem that no one saw coming. And that's where the hidden cost kicks in. A little window pops up, and this window says something like, "This program quit unexpectedly. Would you like to file a report?" Well, yes, of course you'd like to file a report so someone knows how to fix this thing, right? So off it goes, crash data, error codes, system updates. Apple's engineers get it, they sort through it, they figure out a solution, and then they push a software update a week or so later. And congratulations. Now, not only were you first, but you just worked for Apple. You're not just a customer, you're part of their unpaid quality control department. You're troubleshooting their product with your frustration, your time, and your data. And here's the kicker. This isn't sloppy work. It's intentional. Companies know when they launch a brand new something, very complicated products that we have nowadays, it isn't fully polished, and they rely on the first ones to buy it to help smooth out all the glitches. So for all of you who want to be first with a new shiny thing, remember, being first comes with a hidden cost. You're paying in time, frustration, and unpaid labor for the company. There's an old industry term. It's a saying called the 90-90 rule. Ever hear of it? It's kind of new to me. I hadn't heard about it until recently. It goes like this though. The first 90% of a project takes 90% of the time. The last 10% takes another 90% of the time. It's kind of meant to be funny, but it's also not so funny. In other words, the final polish always takes longer, far longer than anyone expects. That's why many companies follow a release early, release often model. They ship out a version that works well enough, then rely on hundreds of thousands of real users to surface the bugs that they couldn't figure out on their own. Think about that. The bugs aren't just mistakes that they never saw coming. Having you finding them and them fixing those bugs was always part of the business strategy. They know people will buy the new thing because some people have to buy the first thing. And those first buyers, they'll send in the crash reports, they'll complain in forums, they'll drive back to the dealer. The feedback becomes the final stage of testing and the company doesn't have to pay a dime for it. Pretty cool, huh? New products are rarely 100% finished. Innovators, those early buyers, uncover the last 10% for free. Now it takes all kinds of people to make the world go round. And back in the 1960s, a researcher named Everett Rogers studied this exact behavior. He even wrote a book about it called Diffusion of Innovations. Companies still study it today because it perfectly explains how people adapt to new products. And here's the breakdown. The innovators that are the early buyers I spoke about just a moment ago, they are approximately 2.5% of the people who buy stuff. and they want to be the first no matter what the risk. That's the people you see in those lines at the stores waiting for the very first thing. The moment those doors open, they're rushing right in to get it. Then there are the early adopters. They're around 13.5% of the customers out there. They wait a bit before they jump in. They'll get the benefit of having a more refined product, a better, more perfected version. So they'll still be early, but the ride will be smoother. Maybe not perfect, but smoother. Then there's the early majority. That's 34% of the people. They wait till it's proven to guarantee a smooth ride. For me, being a busy guy who needs something smooth that works the moment I get it, this is probably where I fall into the scale. I would be earlier, but I'm aware of all the troubleshooting, so intentionally don't jump in early. I want efficiency, pure and simple. Then there's the late majority. That's the 34% who are going to wait until it's safe. Then there are the laggards. That's the 16% who are still carrying around a dumb phone here in 2025. They may get on board someday, but they're in no hurry to do it. So it seems that the earlier you are in buying the new thing, the higher the price you pay. Not just in dollars, because the price does come down over time, but in downtime, headaches, frustration, and just plain old misery. I guess unless you like that kind of thing. I personally don't. Understand this though. Companies know that the innovators and early adapters will pay the price. They are counting on it. But you can improve the experience by being aware of all this. Awareness puts you in control. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, Apple Music was something you had to have on your computer. iPhones didn't come out until about 2007, so this was a bit before that. Anyway, Apple Music used to drive me up the wall. Every time I finally got comfortable, every time I figured out finally how to organize and transfer all my playlists to the old iPods, bam, they'd push a new software update. Suddenly, buttons disappeared, shortcuts disappeared, the whole damn thing looked different. I felt like every month I had to relearn the thing all over again. And I'll tell you, I don't have that kind of mental bandwidth or time to screw around with relearning something that should be a convenience in my life every month just to be able to use it. There's no way. I want it to stay the same old way it's always been, the way I've gotten used to it. That way I don't have to think. I just do, and I put my mind towards other more important things. But that wasn't the way they were working their spiral development program at all. So, guess what? They lost me as a customer for years. One day I just stopped using it. I was too frustrated with it. Years later, I finally came back when my wife said, hey, on our iPhones, we got a new subscription. You can build your own playlists and use Apple Music to your heart's delight. And apparently, it doesn't change anymore. And that has been wonderful. The same old thing, the same old playlist I set up, exactly how I left them, every time I want them. And it's been that way for a very long time. That's how I like to get stuff working for me. A stable, intuitive system. But those early years, well, they took too long and they burned me out. So another thing to learn is that constant change isn't always progress. If you jump in too early, you become the unpaid beta tester and waste a lot of your time and mental processing trying to figure out the new stuff. And eventually, it can burn you out. And it's not just Apple. I'm not just bagging on Apple. I love Apple, actually. But back in 2006, Facebook did the same kind of thing. They rolled out the newsfeed, and the backlash was massive. Hundreds of thousands of people protested the changes. But that was just the start. Over the years, Facebook kept redesigning the interface. One day you'd log in, and nothing looked familiar. Friends lists were moved, settings were hidden, controls scrambled. They did it again and again and again until finally I said, I'm done. I do not want to have to rethink things all over every time as they figure out how to get it right. And to this day, I barely use Facebook at all. Thankfully, my wife does, and she just kind of, whatever she does, that all of a sudden whatever. I don't use it much. And I think the thing that bothers me is that nothing about it is intuitive anymore. When I do get on, it doesn't even make sense. There's a lot to be said for making things that are simply intuitive. You just open it up and from the start, you can just use it. So I learned that companies that change things too often run the risk of burning the people out. And they certainly did burn me out. Sometimes waiting a long time means you get stability without the churn. And that's me. And that fits me much more than being the innovator or the early adopter. Oh, and we're not just talking about ancient history here. Even today, this is everywhere. Tesla pushed an over-the-air update to its cars, sometimes even to fix recalls. In 2023, Tesla recalled about 2 million cars in the US and delivered a fix through software updates. It worked, but regulators later reviewed whether it was enough. That's how iterative things have become. You can even update your car like a phone. Instagram moves its buttons around every once in a while. In 2023, they pulled the shop tab and put the create button back in the center. So if you've ever opened these things up and thought, wait, where'd that go? You're not imagining things. They move it all around just to test things. Innovators and early adopters are the ones who feel it first. They're the ones paying with frustration while the company quietly collects the free feedback. I've noticed this for decades, and the pattern hasn't changed. Innovators carry the cost so the majority can enjoy the polished version later. So, thank you all. I appreciate it, but I want to help you win in life. So that's why I'm sharing all of this with you. Remember, if you're first, you're part of the troubleshooting process. If you wait, you get the refined product. But then again, if you wait too long, you risk becoming irrelevant. So don't be that person either. You need to find a sweet spot, and that's why I like where I am, the early majority. I don't have to deal with the troubleshooting, and it's still pretty new and relevant. So it's a win-win for me. But regardless of what is right for you, you get to choose. Being first isn't always bad. Innovators push the world forward. Without them, nothing new would ever be launched. But you need to understand the cost. So when you decide to be first, it's a choice, not a trap. If you see this strategy, you control the outcome. Awareness lets you decide when to pay the cost and when to let someone else pay it for you. So here's my challenge to you. The next time a new product or an app or some kind of gadget comes out, stop and ask yourself one simple question. Am I willing to be part of the unpaid troubleshooting department, or would I rather somebody else do that for me? You might also consider, is the product you currently have good enough for a while longer? If so, you might wait until this new product is cheaper and more refined. See, this consideration could save you hours of frustration, hundreds of dollars, maybe even weeks or months of your life. It's like the old G.I. Joe cartoon back in the 1980s used to always say after each episode, now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And that's the real point of this Dadogram, making sure you have the information you need to make a good decision that can help you win. So don't get played. Don't get drafted into unpaid labor unless you choose it. If you see the game, you can choose to play or not to. And it's in that decision that you can create a victory, whether you're first, second, or later. Thank you.